And if you're going to be an international company, you have to be world's best.
Mm.
So that forces the New Zealanders to bring design on early and immediately, and importantly, really value it. So when you see startups that come out of the New Zealand ecosystem, very early on, there's design being represented and being part of that core team because they need to be differentiated. They need to lead their category, otherwise they won't survive.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent a fair bit of time either being mentored by or working in or educated and schooled by the Gandalfs of the design scene, and many of those great wizards are Kiwi brand designers and industrial designers and service designers.
What do you see are the biggest challenges as an industrial designer, and how do you work to overcome them?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. Industrial design is fundamentally a creative pursuit, and you're trying to solve problems, and you work until in a consultancy. It's an in-house perspective, and there's a designer maker perspective, and then there's a consultancy perspective. For us, we push as hard as we can until and often through and out the other side of the budget buffer to the point where we're in the red, to try and solve these problems and make sure that every stakeholder input and influencer along the supply chain and the value chain is being looked after. And then make sure the life cycle of the product is sustainable and sensible, and then try and deliver it all on market, on time, at the right price point. It's an incredibly challenging profession, and there's so many spinning plates, so many constraints and inputs that you're putting and working through. So, I mean, the nature of the business itself, I'm saying, is the number one challenge, and that's the second one is you're often creating stuff that's never existed before, and when you're working with clients that have been mature R&D clients, they've gone through this many times, then they get it. They understand this is part of the process. But if you're working for a whole bunch of startups that are maybe self-funding or bootstrapping, and prototype 1 only works at 80%, and prototype 2 works at 85%, and prototype 3 works at 95%, at that point in time, they're pretty stressed. Right? Because they've just done 3 rounds of prototyping, they're still not 100%. And to be honest, they probably will never get it 100% perfect. But for them, that's a lot of anxiety. So from my perspective as the design director and manager of this business, a fair bit of my time is client, particularly for startups, is education and execution and mentoring. There's a lot of client management and mentoring that goes on in the background. So I didn't really answer your question about challenges.